In every organization, there's one group holding the whole operation together. Not the top, not the bottom, the middle. Today, three of the sharpest minds in middle management step up to the mic. Jeff Sigel, Lisa Wood, and Sally Foley-Lewis. Each brings a different lens, one shared mission. Decode what it really takes to lead from the middle with confidence, clarity, and impact. Same questions, three perspectives. Get ready for insight that cuts through the noise and goes straight to the operational heartbeat of your organization. Let's dive in.
Here's what I think great middle management looks like. Great middle managers really understand that they have three roles, not just one. The three roles correspond to the ability to manage their boss and manage the relation up, manage the relation with their peers across, and manage their team down. So if you want to be great in the middle, you need to understand how to do all three of those things. And in order to understand how to do all three of those things, you have to understand the goal of each one. So the goal of the relationship with your boss is to create credibility so that your boss believes you, that you're going to get your work done on time, that you are going to do a good job, that you are going to come up with the best possible recommendation. And you can only do that by creating credibility over time, by proving that you do the right things, that you can take direction, and then you earn the right to have an opinion, have a perspective, etc. The second piece then is, how do I get the most out of a team? How do I get my team to function at a very high level, especially when I'm trying to manage my own boss? And so I want to get my team to the point where I don't need to manage them, right? Now, that may be a long-term dream. Maybe it will never happen, but what you're trying to do is create the conditions where your team can function even when you're not there. That's what you're trying to do. That's what you're trying to accomplish. In other words, you're trying to create capacity in your team by essentially getting them to be able to think like you, to work like you, to produce what you would have guided them to produce without you intervening, which then creates more capacity for you to do other things, to support your boss, to bring your own visions to life. And then the third piece is that ability to get the people that work around you, the people that don't work for you and that you don't work for, how do you get them to commit to supporting you when they have different incentives, when they have different priorities? And so in this case, this ability to sort of understand, how do I influence? So how do I, get people on my side by understanding their incentives and making sure that I'm supporting them so that they support me in return. So to me, those three things, the ability to create credibility with your boss, to create capacity with your team, and gain commitment from all of those around you, those are the three things that really are the hallmarks of great middle management.
I think in 2026, middle management exists in a world that is faster, more complex, and more uncertain than it's ever been. We're navigating AI in everyday work, hybrid and remote teams, economic pressures, skill shortages, and constant change. The role of the middle has not become easier, it has become much more critical. I think first, great middle managers are sense makers. I think that's always been true. It's just making sense of what's going on is now more complicated because of how much and how varied everything is that's going on. With AI tools, dashboards, and data everywhere, people are often overwhelmed rather than informed in businesses. And actually, I think a core critical part of middle management is making sense and cutting through the noise that exists. So middle managers really need to have the skill set of being able to interpret, translate, tell a story, and help the teams understand what matters now, what can wait, and where to focus both the team's energy but also their own. And in a world of constant input, clarity is therefore a major critical leadership skill. Middle managers are also human stabilizers. In 2026, many people are still carrying fatigue from years of disruption from COVID, and then the ongoing disruption that's just escalated in a post-COVID world. There is change on every front. Technology, ways of working, Expectations. Great middle managers notice when energy dips, when pressure builds, and when morale is fragile. They normalised honest conversations and create safety in the middle of uncertainty. Great middle managers today, therefore, are hybrid leaders. They lead people that they probably don't see every day because of the current setup, the setup of being remote as well as in the office. So the middle manager really needs to be a strong connection and relationship builder who's able to do that across many screens. So they keep remote and in-person team members equally included. They are intentional about communication, visibility and belonging. And that doesn't happen by accident. It takes skill, care and conscious effort consistently. I go back to that AI piece because, I think there's a lot of fear around AI, and I think today's middle managers need to be confident to work alongside it, as guides, not necessarily as experts, really help support their teams and the businesses to adopt AI in the most efficient, effective way possible and without fear. So that means really being intentional about plans around AI, asking the right questions, considering impact, ethics and quality. So, I've talked through many things there about today's middle managers, but, fundamentally, I think 2026 for middle management isn't about position, it's about impact. I think it's always been about impact. And it's the difference between organisations that really can cope and organisations that absolutely thrive.
I agree with both Jeff and Lisa's comments and questions to this question. I think they've nailed the essential truths about the role of a middle manager. Jeff talks about credibility with bosses, capacity with your team, commitment across the organisation. And, Lisa was talking about sense making and human stabilising and navigating complexity, AI and change. And so what I want to do is build on both of those, because I think great middle management today, it also includes influencing up and collaborating across and inspiring down. And I don't think they're three separate jobs, but one integrated leadership practice as such. So let's get into influencing up. Credibility absolutely matters. And today is not just about proving you can deliver, but also helping senior leadership see what's really happening on the ground, truly understand what's working and what's not, so that their decisions are actually far more effective and more aligned with what needs to happen. And great middle managers don't just report progress, they bring insight, perspective and practical recommendations that help those decisions land for the real world right now. And that, I think, is a really critical part of influencing up. And collaborating across, this is where complexity really shows up. Different priorities, competing agendas, limited resources. Great middle managers, they don't just push harder, but they build smarter, and they're scanning the environment left and right to understand what matters not just to them, but to others around them, so that they can find those shared outcomes and make progress possible, and not really worry about any sort of formal authority. It's about, permission granted, proceed until apprehended is a great quote I once heard. And I think when it comes to being able to collaborate across and get the most out of what you've got with your peers is proceed until apprehended. You're not out there to do a bad job. You're out there to get the best work done. And you can do that with collaboration. And then the third piece that I wanted to also tap into is that inspiring down piece. And this is, it's linked to performance management. It's also about energy and clarity and confidence. And great middle managers create direction, especially when things feel uncertain. They build capability and not dependence. And they help people think better, not just work harder. So where can middle managers be really tapping into the motivation and the engagement piece for their direct reports and then for their teams, and giving timely feedback to help improve things and to help validate things as well. So absolutely, today's middle managers are sense makers, they're stabilizers, and they are connectors. You know, they translate strategy, they're builders of momentum, and they're carriers of the culture. And it's not necessarily by doing more, but by leading better. And great middle managers today, it isn't about holding the middle together, it's about making the middle matter.
You've just heard from 3 leaders who have dedicated their careers to strengthening the heartbeat of every organization, the middle. Jeff Sigel brings more than 2 decades across global food, grocery, and restaurant giants and a mission to build better workplaces from the inside out. He's a coach, author of The Middle Matters, helping leaders at every level increase their impact. From Cape Town, Robyn Wood is the middle manager coach. Her own leap into senior middle management sparked the confidence crisis that transformed her life and career. Today, she helps managers rebuild their confidence, sharpen their self-awareness, and thrive through GRIP Coaching's practical, high-impact development programs. Sally Foley-Lewis has spent over 20 years in the trenches and the boardroom, working with more than 20,000 managers across industries and continents. She's a global award-winning speaker, author, and educator who equips managers to be confident, capable, and courageous, and delivers the tools that lift performance fast. 3 experts, 1 shared passion, helping middle managers succeed where it matters most. Stay connected, keep developing, and keep leading from the middle.